First, after being diagnosed with breast cancer and going through the trauma of a double mastectomy, mum of three, Leanne Parker, decided to have breast reconstructive surgery. But what should have been a simple procedure turned into a living nightmare when shortly after surgery, Leanne's organs went into shutdown.
Well, we'll warn you now that what you are about to see is pretty graphic, so if you are squeamish, then look away. For hours, surgeons battled to save Leanne, but as a result of an infection, she was forced to have all her toes and part of her left foot amputated. And those pictures will occur during the course of the interview. I'll tell you when they're coming up if you need to look away. She's with her solicitor, Iona Mears-Young, from Slater and Gordon. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. So you're nearly 37, you're living in Derbyshire, you've got your 3 children, you're a community support worker, life is good, everything fine, and then you find a lump.
Yes.
How did you find it?
I'd gone on to a healthy eating plan. I'd lost quite a bit of weight and discovered by losing 2 bra sizes that I'd got a lump.
So lucky that you found the lump in the first place. And you very quickly referred, because you went to the doctor, he then referred you to the hospital, and then you're told the worst news that you could hear. Yeah. How did you feel when you were told?
It's a surreal moment. It's one of those that it's almost like it'll never happen to you type feeling, you know. It's you just can't start to begin where you go from there. There's so many questions, so many feelings, emotions running through you that you don't know where to begin.
And that's the emotional side of it, but then you've got the treatment side of it as well, and that all happened pretty quickly, didn't it?
Yes.
What was the treatment that you had?
I went in the following week and had a mastectomy.
This was a single one?
Yes, the single one, with an expander fitted at the same time to expand the skin, ready.
Helping for future reconstruction.
Followed by chemotherapy.
And that was for 4 months?
Yes.
And it was around this time as well, you also discovered that your grandma had died of ovarian cancer.
Yeah, we'd always believed that she'd had cancer of the colon, which she did, but we were never told that she also had ovarian cancer.
So then there were decisions to be made on the back of that information?
Well, I'd gone on to hormone therapy after the chemo, and I was having a reaction with the first lot of hormone therapy, which then obviously led to us believing that this might not be a good idea. So it was a choice to be made then.
So you had your ovaries, you had your fallopian tubes removed, and then as a precaution you also had your right breast removed.
That's right, yeah. With the decision made on my age, the history through the family, and the chances of the cancer returning, it was a decision made between the doctors and myself that I were referred over to a different hospital and had the other breast removed.
So when you had the second breast removed, once again the expander was put in, preparing you for reconstructive surgery if you chose to do it.
Yes.
And you did. This was something that was going to happen in February 2011.
That's right.
So you go in for the surgery, and when you wake up, it's completely different to what you'd imagined it was going to be. Tell me why.
Yes. I mean, the first reaction you do is to have a look, because this is the final stage. This was the end of the road as such. You know, you'd gone through everything, and this was the final bit of becoming normal again as such, you know. And when you look down and realise that everything's wrong, it was misshaped, it just didn't look right in any way, they were different to each other, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was
what
horrible.
did your consultant say?
He wasn't there.
Why?
He was away on holiday. I hadn't been told that, but
so it was a different.
Yes, it was a different surgeon who had performed. Yeah. But
now we should point out, and I know you did briefly just say it, but in case it was lost, this is a different hospital from the one that you had your cancer treatment in. And so initially you are unhappy with the way.
Yes.
I
was devastated. I was absolutely. I can't tell you. It was heartbreaking. It really was.
And for a woman who's gone through everything that no one should have to go through, but you've gone through all of these procedures to get you to that stage. You've survived, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And you're into the reconstruction. Not to be happy with that must be such a massive disappointment.
It is, because I'd stayed so strong all the way through, so positive. I've got two teenage daughters.
Yeah.
And I was really trying to, you know, keep as upbeat as possible to prove to them that, because obviously their future is now in question, that there's no fear, there's nothing to worry about, you know, everything will be fine.
So when did it start to go wrong?
It was that following week. I went home the next day with drains in situ. Drains were removed throughout the week, and I slowly increased how poorly I became. And by the end of that week, I became so poorly, I was out of control of all bodily functions.
So your friends were beginning to really worry. You were delirious.
Yes, really.
So they called 999?
I have no recollection of that week.
So did they call 999?
That's how bad it became, yeah.
And when you were taken into hospital, your organs started to fail. It was only your brain, your heart and lungs that were functioning.
Yeah.
So they put you into a coma?
Yes.
And it was the drugs, the life-saving drugs, actually, that you were on that led to further complications.
That's right. Yeah.
Why was that?
The body naturally keeps the brain and the torso going, because that's the main bit, that's the only bit that you really need to survive. The arms and legs isn't something the body says it needs, so it doesn't receive the blood supply. And slowly the hands and the feet became black, mummified.
And your family were, while they were at your bedside, were massaging your feet and hands to try and keep the blood and to try and keep them moving.
Yeah.
You're completely unaware of all of this,
Oh,
I
totally.
assume.
I had no idea what was going on.
So you come out of the coma, the induced coma, you're brought out of that to be greeted by the sight which I warned you about earlier on. And if you are squeamish, look away, because we're going to show you the pictures of those blackened toes, and this is what they look like.
I've never seen anything like that.
What does that... I mean, how did you feel when you woke up and saw that?
Devastated.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
Are you okay?
No,
No,
I
I'm
can
fine.
totally
It's just,
understand.
I should have asked you to look away as well,
No,
shouldn't
it's
I,
fine.
then? Are you sure?
Devastated. No, I'm fine.
Okay. And so, so you then go home, and you have been forced to, you know, sort of endure this.
Yeah.
And then the gangrene sets in.
Yeah, we was asked to go home and let the feet die naturally. The toes was to be dropped off naturally at first.
You must have been thinking, how much more is life going to throw at me at this point?
Yes, yeah. But the white gangrene set in, so I was taken back in to have them amputated. So I spent another week in hospital to recover, and then have to learn to go home and manoeuvre around as best I can.
And how mobile are you now? We're going to show another picture now, which is the picture. This is actually what you you allowed us to have a look at your feet as they are now this morning.
They are now, yeah.
And so this is what you have to be mobile with. I can't imagine how it is to manoeuvre myself around without my toes. What effect does that have on you?
It's very difficult. I mean, your balance is always affected. You're never stable. Never ever stable. You know, there's many a time you'll just go down. Obviously, because of the gait now, the way that the foot goes through, the foot is having to take the weight totally differently. So the foot suffers with a lot of calluses and corns and problems. The knees suffer, the hips suffer, the back suffers, because it obviously now...
So it's just ongoing.
So it just goes on, and the foot starts to collapse slowly but surely. It starts to go, which then starts to question, obviously, more and more amputations, which I've had a couple of.
Oh my goodness.
But because of the heels as well, that's suffering. And now the question of where they have to amputate next.
But so these are...
Do you think there'll be further amputations?
Yeah, they're now questioning just below the knee.
My goodness, what has this done to you? I mean, emotionally, sort of having to cope. Like you said, you've got your children, you're trying to be strong for them. But how are you doing through all of this?
You've got to keep going. If you don't keep going, then you're going to just sit down and just... It's a sink or swim question, isn't it? If you don't, then what are the children going to do without you?
Now, obviously, this is a very rare occurrence, and we
Yes.
should say to anyone who's going through the treatment for breast cancer at the moment, and with future reconstructive surgery on the horizon, this is a very, very rare thing to happen. But it has happened to you. And where do you go from here? What do you do? Because nobody likes to sue the NHS.
Well, I think in Leanne's particular situation, this was a very straightforward error that could have been prevented. I mean, the reason that Leanne is faced with the difficulties she now has is because the hospital failed to prescribe antibiotics after the surgery. So when people undergo major surgery, as a precaution, you're discharged with antibiotics. So Leanne, who is a carer herself and is in a family where her partner's also a carer, she was aware that it was likely she was going to be given antibiotics. And you, after the procedure, were told that you were going to be given antibiotics.
Yes,
but when you were discharged from the hospital...
Yeah, the doctor forgot to do that.
And something as simple as that would have prevented this.
Exactly that. So, and that's the admission that we've got from the trust, that had they given her antibiotics, then all of the consequences which Leanne's now faced with would have been avoided. And it's such a straightforward error that could have been prevented.
Well, Wythenshawe Hospital have accepted liability for not giving you the antibiotics when you left hospital, which would have stopped the infection that caused your organs to fail. They say, we're very sorry Mrs. Parker didn't receive the level of care she expected at our hospital in February 2011. Following an investigation, we identified that our processes fell below the standards we would expect, and we could have done more. We wrote a letter of apology to Mrs. Parker on the 28th of October 2011. This case is now with our legal department to agree a settlement. This was an extremely rare case, and we have reviewed and improved our processes around patient communication and discharge protocol as a direct result of the investigation into Mrs. Parker's care. Thank you for coming in today.
Yes,
I hope that no further amputations, obviously.
Well, no,
you say
I just want to thank everybody out there, if I may, just for everything they've done for me, my family and all my friends, and also all the hospices and everything that have supported me along the way.
Yes.
They have been wonderful.
And you're getting good medical care now.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you've got
Fabulous.
further reconstructive surgery
The new
coming up, so
hospital
we
is
wish you
amazing.
well.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Stay
That's
well.
good to hear.
Really
Good luck.
amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. For any help, advice or information on anything we've just discussed, have a look at our website.